Divine Rise, Grand Rise. Blessed be to the day, may it be everything you require to create all that you desire. As I'm hitting there and pressing buttons, getting everything loaded up. You know, we've started the aspects of gate talk. Great rising, great rising. You know, we started the aspects like throughout the weeks, meditating, elevate, we growing and evolving. So over the last couple of days, if you've been tuning in, we have been doing gate talk. Getting into these human design aspects. Getting into these human design aspects of ourselves. Yesterday we got into after completion. That filled in graciously with this week's podcast episode. Full circle effect, or understanding the aspects of the status, breaking ourselves from the status quo, getting into that repression chamber, and understanding that the status quo and the road to your authentic self is going to be based in the repression. Whatever, all the stuff that you got bottled inside that you're not allowing to come to the surface, all the stuff that you're not allowing yourself to all of these things that you aren't dealing with all these things you're not dealing with, the longer that you stay in that repressed narrative in your mind, that's what's feeding everything that you're going into. So when it comes into the aspects of abundance, you know, we do the gate talk. I'm going to read the card and we're going to go into the breakdown. Abundance is strictly a question of spirit. At any given point, spirit is not a matter of comparison, but is the wonder that the cup or life exists at all. The quality of spirit is in the emotional now. The quality of life is in the emotional now. That means abundance, just like your prosperity, just like your wealth, just like your health, it's already in play. You just have to define it. And you define it through the aspects of the frequency of your energy. Like whenever we hear someone talk about the universe only listens to the frequency numbers, zeros and ones, it's based on your energy that's within motion. So if you're always if you have that repressed memory or that repressed monologue inside of yourself and you're always angry, then guess what you're always going to get? You're always going to get things that are going to trigger your anger. You're always going to have an abundance of things in your life that are going to trigger anger. If you're always sad, guess what you're going to get? You're always going to get things that are going to trigger the sorrow of emotion, because that's the frequency that you're speaking from. This is all about you becoming that authentic aspect to yourself. The filters that you put onto yourself, you can say that you're the great mother, Kali, Ma, whatever it may be. But it doesn't matter, because in the reality of it, if that's not the frequency that you're from, if you still got that repression issue going on, things that you got them repressed thought processes, those repressed thoughts create the memories and replicate based on that to feed that space. So a lot of people, whenever they're thinking about abundance, they're thinking it's simply, all I got to do is ask for abundance. You're already abundant. You're already abundant. You're already abundant. You're already wealthy. You're already healthy. You're already prosperous. You're already all of these things. You just have to define the energy. You just have to define that energy within yourself. That means you got to go through, just like yesterday when I was talking about the aspects of those triggers, you got to go through what's triggering you. Because as soon as you say that you're abundant and you're wealthy and you on top of the game, as soon as you say it, what's the first thing that comes up? Usually what's coming up is the pattern of the repressed thought or whatever ideal is keeping you from actually tapping into your abundance. So you can say, yo, I'm good. I'm making $1 million. I'm making my money. I'm making these moves. I want to go to the gym. I want to get myself in order. But the first things that come up are going to test your aspect of your consistency. Are you consistent and disciplined? The quality of your abundance, just like the quality of your health, just like the quality of the prosperity and the things that are coming into your life, the quality of the love is always based on the internal narrative of yourself, where you're at inside of yourself. The more things that you have repressed, the more things that you keeping on your heart chakra, the more things that you keeping yourself rooted in and not dealing with, the more things that are keeping you in a state of not being confident in yourself, and now you in a state of you can't cultivate your power, the more you're gonna seem like you're getting the abundance that you asked for. But it's coming to your true self at that moment in time that you have not, even if you haven't defined it. I remember for a lot of times for myself, I was wondering why I could not get to certain points in my life. I was wondering why I couldn't get to a certain point, why I couldn't assimilate new information. No matter how much I was reading, no matter how much where I was going, I couldn't assimilate the new energy. I couldn't assimilate the new information. It's because I still had things that I wasn't paying attention to what it was hitting and what it was affecting. I wasn't paying attention to what it was hitting. A lot of us coming to our space, a lot of us coming to our consciousness, coming to our awareness of ourselves. Yes. We come into that space and we like, yo, but I'm abundant. And you have your abundance. It's just not what you want because you ain't defined it yet. You still got stuff you got to work on. That's what that energy hits. Whenever you invoke this energy, it goes to the strongest aspect within the aspect of, yes, exactly, that polarity. It goes into the strongest aspects based in that polarity. So if your polarity is pulling towards the aspects of you always being angry, and the things that trigger your anger, and the things that are repressed, the underline that's repressed in that anger, guess where that energy is going to go to first? It's going to go to that, it's going to be received in that aspect first. So now you got stuff coming up that you have stuff that's coming up that you're like, man, you got to take accountability for it. You call for the energy, therefore you have to define that energy. You got to define this space. I talked about it in the lecture, and I talked about it. I made that post about that 70-30 rule. That 70%, within my 70% for myself, in my day, 30% goes into the aspects of the power of my intention. 40% goes into me creating the structure or creating the conduits or the environment for my intention to flourish within my subconscious mind. Therefore, everything that I do, when I create something in that 30%, that's concentrated energy. I can take this 30%. I ain't worried about trying to get 100. Because if I get to 100, then I can't grow anymore. If I get to that, if I'm a 10, I can't grow anymore. If I have to put myself in a state of humility for myself, not for the reflection of everybody else. Yeah, I'm humble to everybody, and I try to make everybody else feel good. I stay humble, and everybody want to play me. That's not what humility is. Humility to yourself is understanding that you do not know everything. Understanding that, yo, I have things that I need to work on. Humility is going to be based on that honesty with yourself. It's not going to be based upon, I'm going to open up just a little bit. I'm going to open up just a little bit because every time I open up too much or I love too hard and all of these aspects, you keep putting in them escape routes into your life. Now you got an escape route. Now if they don't meet this, I have a way to escape. And not only do you create the aspects of the escape, you also create the conduits in where you escape to. I'm going to keep this just in case. I'm going to keep this in my life just in case. The craziest part, I saw a video yesterday. I saw a video yesterday, and it was talking about the aspects of friendship. It was talking about the aspects of friendship. And I was like, yo, that makes sense with life in general. Like, if it doesn't match your frequency, where you're going, what does it represent? Remember yesterday I talked about the aspects of that doubt. When you have that doubt going on in your life, when you got the doubts going on in your life, you have to follow that stream of where that doubt leads you. You have to become the observer of that doubt. Wherever you're doubting something, follow that trail where that doubt is going to lead you. Because you have a certain pattern that you follow when you're in doubt. Just like you got a certain pattern when you're happy. Just like you got that certain, whatever, you have to follow that pattern. Because that's going to lead you to the abundant and make you question aspects of the quality, or if it's based on quantity. A lot of us stay within our space, cultivating and detaching and staying away from, pushing things away from us that's meant to be challenging us. Anything that you, remember, everything that you build is based on the first initial thought. The first thought. What's the first thought? It's not the thought that you're having right now. It's because that's already in the past, but it's the initial thought. It's something that you repressed. This goes into the aspects when we go into the lines. You'll sit there your entire life trying to be selfless, but you're only being selfless based on self-doubt. You'll go your entire aspect wondering why you're not growing. It's because of that selflessness, because of the doubt, that self-doubt that you have in yourself, or the guilt that you feel that if, I didn't want nobody. How many times have we said it to ourselves that, I don't want no one to go through what I went through? You don't understand. Everybody got their path. Everybody got the work that they got to go through in their space. You can't wish that everybody ain't going to go through what they need to go through, because niggas out here got karmic debt that they got to handle. Because when you sit here and say, I wish nobody goes through the things that I went through, you're falsely assimilating into that space. You're being selfish. Believe it or not, you're being selfish. You think that you're being this, yes, I'm being so open and humanitarian. No, you're being selfish. Think about that comment outside of the emotional aspect. I wish for no one to go through the things that I'm going through, or going through the things that I've gone through. I'm wishing for nobody to go through the bad things. When you understand, this is when you truly don't understand, like, you have to go through those aspects in order to get to this level. That's the shadow work. If nobody went through anything bad, then where would the shadow work be? There would be no shadow. There'd be no need for shadow work. There would be no reason for any of this to be into the existence in this continuum right now. Everybody would be in that, you got to do that work. You came down here for a reason. You came down here for a purpose. Some of you is to clear out debt in this life cycle. Some of y'all is to come through and do that teaching in this life cycle. I talked about it in the podcast. I remember my life cycle. Prior to this one, when I was like, okay, cool, I cleared out my debt, and then I got hit over the head, and they were like, you got to go back down there and do some work. I was like, what do you mean I got to go down there and do some work? I'm not trying to go back down there. I had to, no worry, it's gonna be better. It's gonna be good this time. And then when I accessed the records for that, I was like, oh shit. The reason why most of us can't assimilate, we can't take in that new information, is because of that repression. Remember, everything leads back to your shadow work. The reason that you can't come into that, the reason you can't take in and assimilate that innocence is because your innocence is locked behind that repressed emotion. Your innocence is locked behind that aspect of trauma. It's repressed behind that. That's why you never can feel innocence. That's why you always feeling that stream of guilt. Every time you do something, you're feeling that, you always feel extra, you feel overly guilty. It's because your innocence is locked behind something that you repressed. And that's like when you coming into this space right now, and to the same correspondence is like, I feel a certain type of way. The opposite of that is behind something you repressed a time ago. That's the work. That's when you get into that shadow work. That's when you're working on yourself. When you following that stream of that doubt, that's going to lead you into the aspects of that distrust that you feel is because your trust is locked behind something that you repressed a long time ago. So you can't even go into the full flourish of the energy and the full flourish of your abundance because you don't understand the polarity, the other half of that polarity. This is that aspect of that work. When you're in balance, when you have balance, you are self-aware of your emotions and doing that work within your emotions. Whenever I do emotional work with a client and we start knocking off those layers of that emotional distrust, knocking off these layers and going deeper into the aspects through the healing process, it changes them. It's supposed to change you. You ain't supposed to want to go back. The only thing, and I've said this before, one thing, when it comes to change, the only ones that fear change are the ones that are afraid to invest. There's a reason that they're afraid to invest. The reason that you can't move on, or you have this bias about moving on and allowing yourself to go forward, is because you have not took yourself into the acknowledgement, the acceptance, the apology, the forgiveness, and the understanding of what happened in your past. Instead, you repress, you revert, you create, and then you replicate everything based on that narrative. So you can stay right. So you can stay right where you at, existing. So you can stay, man, it's because people like this, bitches ain't shit, and I can't depend on nobody, that's why I'm always by myself. That sounds sad as fuck. Man, I can't be trusting these people, man, because of this, and this. That shit sounds sad as fuck to me. I'm in the best shape mentally, spiritually, and emotionally right now. I'm in balance. I'm in that divine union of myself. That shit is beautiful. Now that I understand that I am abundance, I can define the quality of myself and understand that creates the reflection of the abundance that comes into my life. Now that I understand that I am the health, I am the wealth, I am the prosperity, I am that is me. Now I understand the aspects of keeping myself in balance and keeping myself in center. It's sad to go out there into that space and now you creating those escape clauses. It's scary when motherfuckers is out here thinking that they're in their authentic self, the ego layering. They're just layering onto their ego new definitions to stay within that space, to live within the status quo, to keep what's in that, to keep what's regressed on their heart, so they can be like, yeah, man, I got a strong heart. No, you ain't in balance. I want you to be the best. This week's episode of the God Hour Podcast, out now, streaming now, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, iHeartRadio, is Full Circle, the path to authenticity. This week we got into the aspects of the spiral effect through understanding the status quo, or breaking the status quo. You're not meant to be the status quo. That is not who you're supposed to be. Getting into the aspect of the repressing chamber, or all of that stuff that you leaving locked up in that little space, and it's overflowing into your world, and it's creating this polluted, toxic realm for you to exist within. And got into the aspects of self-authentication, ego layering versus authentic self. And then, tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I made the post, the God Hour Show. Tonight we're going to get into, since we now got into that on the podcast, the after show, we're going to get into the aspects of escape clauses. In your life, you have made a creation aspect in your life. You made these aspects and these things pop off in your life to be escape clauses. The things that you put in place that are actually destroying your perception of you moving forward. The only thing that can stop you is you. The only thing that can stop you is you. The only thing that's going to knock you off is you. The only thing that most people fear, the only time people fear going forward is when they do not understand. Remember, the past, the present, and the future are all in the same continuum. So if I can't stand in the now, if I don't understand the then, so how can I build my future? How can I rise into my true self? How can you become the best? Because all I want to do is see you be the best. I want to see you be fucking great. Got a code Alkhemist, LLC.com. Inbox me. I got the special for the gate opening reading. If you want your own custom gate opening reading, read to you. Get that, 3333. Hit me up in the inbox. And I'm also going to post it to Instagram. Holla over Instagram, Papa underscore Lucy 666. And I'll see y'all tonight. I want you to be the fucking best. I want you to grow into yourself and become the ultimate aspect. Everything that you coming into is the table of contents to help you grow. You just got to get the emotions in balance so you can see it. I remember, I'm going to close it out with this. I remember there was a point in time with my mother and how my mother was. And I remember I spent most of my life trying to say things like, I'm nothing like my mother. I'm nothing like my pops or her husband. I'm nothing like them. But the reason that they were in my life was to show me aspects that I had to work on. My mother is a generator. My pops was a manifester. That was their human design. So me becoming consistent within myself was understanding where they cannot remain consistent. That's your key. I want you to be the fucking best. I'll see y'all tonight at 7. I love you. We love us. I'll say.